Hello there everyone and welcome back along to the channel. Now there's a lot of rugby happening at the moment in the month of June, but most importantly, probably aside from the Lions tour of New Zealand, there is other international tours going on at the moment as well. And leading up to this weekend, we have 5 pretty big matches that will be happening on international duty this weekend. So today, since we've got the June International SuperBru Pick League going on, it's a chance to give a bit of a prediction to see which teams I think are going to perform the best in this opening weekend. Now, none of the teams have actually been named. We've got squads going on and pretty loose team namings going through some of these sides. So we're having a brief look just based on what I think is going to happen before we really know the full extent of these teams. It's a bit of a wild prediction guess, but saying that most of these should be fairly straightforward predictions as well, seeing as there are a few mismatches, but there is one or two that could be quite a cracker. Now, if you want to join my SuperBru League before the weekend starts, get in for that first round. All you need to do is go to SuperBru, sign up for the June Internationals Predictor, and then you can join my league just by searching under pools for Cornflakes Crib. You can find it there, you can join it, you'll get automatically accepted, and you can have a whale of a time trying to beat my picks. So that is the challenge. So get involved and get joining up with the SuperBru League. And if you want, you can even go complete opposite to what I think and try and beat me that way if you like. So here is my picks for these big 5 games on SuperBru this weekend. It all starts off in Australia. Saturday night it is, and it's an interesting one, starting a bit earlier as well, it seems, in Amy Park. So this is the first real look that we see of an Australian team. Now, we know what they've been like in Super Rugby. Woeful. In one word, they've been terrible, rubbish. You can go on and on with all the anti-accolades you like. These Australian franchises in Super Rugby have been pretty poor. But they are one of the few teams we've actually seen that have named a team for this game. And they've got some interesting selections in there as well as to what way they will go. They are playing against Fiji, though, which really, when you see the team, you look at it and go, well, yeah, that actually does make sense as to why they're trying these things. Most notable is the addition of Carmichael Hunt playing in the midfield. Now, I'm not the hugest fan of Carmichael Hunt by any stretch of the imagination, but this is the time to try it. They've got it right, the Wallabies. They need to find things out about these players, of course. Now, they haven't had their strongest year, but as a unit, they could still produce a pretty good side. I noticed they brought the likes of Guinea back into the team as well, which is good because these rules have been changed and made for guys like this that come in and make an impact. But you got to feel sorry for the other players in those positions that do miss out after being in Australia, making a road through these crappy Super Rugby teams. So it doesn't do them any favours that Australia is so poor in Super Rugby at the moment, and against the other sides makes them look even worse. But they've got to still force a way through. They've got to be the ones that shine above the others as well. And you've got to say at scrum half especially, Australia do have a few good up-and-comers coming through the ranks. The likes of the Powell from the Brumbies. He's one of course, Sturzak, who we've been going on for years now. Is he up to the international standard? He has kind of flatlined a bit after getting that first real burst on the scene. But they've gone with what they know, and they will be pretty hard to stop here, especially against the Fijians. We know Fiji is much improved from what they were years ago, getting professional players, getting them into the boat, having them on the rosters and on the paychecks or payrolls of big teams in the Northern Hemisphere and the likes is massive for teams like Fiji. So that's where it all starts for them. They've got to keep building up for here. And playing teams like Australia is kind of one of those things about development of the game. It's something we're not really going to talk about here because it's something we'll talk about forever as well, about how you can properly develop rugby in the smaller countries. Put them in Super Rugby, for example. So for Fiji, this is great for them to get a match against a top-tier opponent like Australia. Even as bad as they've been, they're still a top-tier nation. And for Fiji, there's a chance to really upset the apple cart, but I can't see them doing it in any way whatsoever. Despite whatever team they name, how good, how bad it could be, Fiji is not quite up to that standard. Later on, if they're playing like in Italy or something, they could really get a chance to shine there. But biggest lights are right now, so if Fiji have got anything to offer, this is the time to offer it. Of course, you've got some big names and big positions, so they're the guys they need to have the go-to to make things happen. Against the Wallabies, though, again, don't think they're going to be strong enough, but it should be a nice opener to both of these sides' international campaign. I don't think the Wallabies are going to be streaking out of the blocks as good as they could possibly be. So with that, I think it might be a semi-tight kind of match, and I'm going to pick the Wallabies to win this one by about 11 points. Fairly close, but you probably find Fiji will come back into this match later on when it's kind of died off. The Wallabies know that the game is in the bag, and they will there from then on say, okay, we're done, and Fiji will do what Fiji does, play 7-style rugby, and score some fantastic tries. I would be sure to see some worldies from the Fijians this weekend. It'll be close, closer than you'd think. I think the Wallabies, first game, rusty as per always. We've seen it from the Lions. No team comes internationally, bang out of the blocks, perfect like that. So Aussie by 11, shaky start, but I think playing as a cohesive team like this will definitely improve Australian rugby. Right, second match of our 5 in this quick little look through a preview of international rugby for June, the international window. Second game, we have Italy up against Scotland. Now, what's cool about this game is it's actually in Singapore. World Rugby is really pushing the whole Singapore thing at the moment. Really going for them. Possible Super Rugby team before the Sunwolves. Even now, at this point, who knows what's going to happen. But Singapore is an area that World Rugby is really, really pushing on. And to host a game between two, middle of the road, decent size. We know Scotland really is pushing up high. But you've got to remember, Scotland is without their 3 Lions players. But they are big players as well, though. So you can't forget that. There's no Laidlaw, no Seymour, no Hogg. 3, well, maybe 2 pretty inspirational players. Maybe even just 1. But still, they have pretty good player depth in Scotland. And just 3 players missing and a pretty good improved forward pack as well throughout the Six Nations. That was hard done by not to get more Lions selections. They will be rearing to go. Rearing to prove that they were and are good enough to be in that Lions team. Because, injuries happen. And the Lions still have a lot of games to play before they even face the All Blacks in the first test. So, injuries happen. Players get called up. And who knows? There could be Scotsmen on the plane over to New Zealand. But they're up against Italy. Now, Italy is a team that's really struggled to progress much from that, bottom rung of Six Nations ladder. They've struggled to really progress too far up, and this is the time where they need to unearth the talents. This is the time they need to say, these guys look promising. Under 20s, they need to be scouting the absolute shit out of under 20s at the moment to find the next star. They need to get them into the process. Obviously, now the Under 20 World Cup is currently on, so they won't be pulling them out of that now, but they need to be watching that, and they need to be bringing guys up through the system, because what they've got currently now may be good, but it's not great. It's not going to progress that team. They need fresh blood in there, and they need to keep progressing, keep rolling that reel, keep finding the depth of Italian rugby. Match in Singapore probably won't help either side. If anything, I think the location won't help either side, but the fact that it'll probably be dry, should be dry, who knows, it can rain pretty hard pretty quickly there as well. I'd say that would slightly favour the Scots. Who knows what the weather will be, but if it is dry, Scotland advantage. If it does pour down and become wet, I'd give almost advantage there to Italy, because they do like that more ground down Brumby style, if you're familiar with Super Rugby. In the forwards, keeping it tight, but that is a game that Scotland, I feel now, are truly capable of matching. So with that, I do think Scotland will be, well, I'd say far too strong for the Italians. We've seen it throughout the Six Nations as well. Scotland performed well above their weight and should be far too good here for the Italians. I'm going to go Scotland by 19 points to get this win over Italy in Singapore. Great for Singapore. If you're from Singapore, I'd like to know if you're going to this game and what you think about it as well. Now, next match of this June International Series, first weekend, round 1 of these internationals, is probably the biggest, I think, the biggest of this one so far. 2 sides not affected by Lions Tour, not affected by any other rugby going on at the moment. It is South Africa versus France. Now, South Africa named their team quite some time ago, and there were some really good decisions in there. There were some really odd decisions in there. Some really good players left out, Faf de Klerk and others, but some really good names that have been brought into the team that deserve it as well, that you look at and go, yeah, that guy's been playing really well. South Africa need to keep, rotating like Italy. South Africa do have a habit of sticking with the old guys that have done it and done it and done it. It doesn't always work like that. You get to a point where you've got to start bringing in the fresh blood. And that is where a country like New Zealand and the All Blacks do so well, because when those guys start to reach their peak and they start going down the other way, there's a guy that has just started emerging through the other side, and it really rotates perfectly with the All Black team environment, the culture, and the way they operate their team. Something South Africa's kind of struggled with, because they keep these guys on saying they're the best, they're experienced, they're the best guys we've got, but you've got to get that emerging talent through. These guys drop off, they say, I'm out of here, I've retired, I'm going to go play somewhere else in Japan for 2 years and screw the international game, and then it's like, oh, where's that young guy gone? Throw him in there, get him in there, start him. Bang, that is just too harsh to just chuck a guy straight in, and that has been the problem with South African rugby, I think, for quite some time, without going political. I'm not going political about that, because we know the problems are far, far deeper in South African rugby than just a small emerging talent rotation that I'm talking about. But I think that's something they definitely improve on without getting in too much trouble with the whole political side of things. So keeping that fresh blood coming through and making sure that players are ready to take on that environment. They do in Super Rugby fairly well, because a lot of their players get injured and it's a long season. They can build into it. But at international level, these guys just get thrust in there quite a lot, and it can be a bit of a concern for them. It's sink or swim, and 9 times out of 10, they do sink. But it's time to start helping these guys to swim a bit. South Africa, they're not a strong team. I think definitely a good team on paper, but I think South Africa's had a good team on paper for a number of years. We're looking World Cup and past. A good team on paper doesn't equate to a good team on the field, and we know that. We've seen it time and time again, and that is something that South Africa need to really address. They need to keep this team rotating. I think they've named a good squad too. Like I said, a lot of good guys coming through. They've got to be given the chance, got to be given the opportunity to build into their South African, their Springbok career. That is key for me for South Africa. I've talked about them far enough already as well. As for their opponents, of course, this one is at Loftus Forest Field in Pretoria. They are playing France. Now, France. I really like France. I really like how they can play, not how they always do play. I think France are very much a possibility to win this game against South Africa, who overall, as a rugby nation, as a Springbok collective, are low on confidence of results of how the national team is going. So this is an opportunity for France to put the boot in effectively and stick it to the big dog at the moment, which is the Springboks, comparatively to France. Although, on the other hand, the French didn't have a very good Six Nations at all. It was probably one of their worst they've had over recent years as well. So a lot of problems going on with France. They don't seem to be punching where they should be in their local competitions. I'm meaning Six Nations local, the European competitions, if you will. So that is somewhere they need to address, I think, definitely. They've got the players, but again, is it this top 14 thing with all these overseas imports coming in? We just seen the final, and there was a lot of players in there that weren't French. A lot of key positions in multiple sides that weren't French. That is starting to change a bit. I think they are starting to blood a lot of new players in key positions, fly halves especially. They've got a couple young guys coming through. Their under-20 team has been going fairly well as well, so they've got to blood this talent as well coming through. I have gone on about that a bit, and I think that is really the most critical part about international series like these. These ones are big for giving these guys the chance. End-of-year tour, June internationals. Nothing on these games. You're playing a tough match like South Africa. It would be great to win, but if you lose, it's not the end of the world, especially for France playing in South Africa. You could really unearth a talent and build him into his time with the national team here. I think that's where both of these sides, especially South Africa and France, need to do it. They're both at a position where they could tip one way or the other. They could really start their upward rise again, or they could easily continue the downward slide. They're on that tipping point, you know, if that makes any sense to you whatsoever. This is where the tough decisions need to be made. This is where those backroom friendships need to be put on hold and saying, look, dude, you're 32. This match is important for the future of France, South Africa. We need to blood this guy. We need to give this guy 50 minutes. that's the kind of thing that they need to be doing. And I really hope, I haven't seen the starting squads for these sides. I've seen the overall squad for South Africa, and I think there's plenty of chance in there to give some players some opportunities, players who have really stood out over Super Rugby. And I hope to see the same from France. We've seen, again, top 14 final and the semi-finals. There's a lot of guys in there performing at a good level that could be deserving of a chance up the tier and get that continuity in the French squad as well. So plenty riding on this match between South Africa and France. I'm going to go the Springboks by a slender margin. I'm going to go South Africa by 5. That's all I think they're going to win this one by. But that, for me, is the biggest match of the weekend. We've got 2 more after that as well, and it's Argentina versus England. Now, the Argentinians are at home against a severely weakened England team, but this is where what we just talked about with the South Africa and France game, this is where Eddie Jones is a very, very good coach and a clever man. Other things he does have me confused, but this, he is very, very good. He has picked a very youthful and very, very future talented side that is going to serve English rugby for a long, long time. Now, this is where he's a clever man. He hasn't gone back and gone, oh, I'm missing all these guys. Let's go back to what, the backups are and get them back in here. The older guys, the old firm. No, he's gone with a very, very young sort of base of his team and picked a lot of guys who are going to perform in the future, possibly for England. So that's big ups for Eddie Jones on that one. England have really identified this as a chance to build their team. And it's an easy one too, because they can very easily go, if they lose to Argentina, they can go, bah, we're missing all our Lions players. Why are you watching England anyway? This is just like England A. You should be watching the Lions over in New Zealand. Don't worry about what England's doing. We are just building for the future here. So it's almost like an England A team going out on a bit of a tour to build their team up a bit more and open up a wider base of players that they can select from. So good from England here, but against Argentina, who don't have that problem, they'll be picking the best squad they can, I'd imagine, and they'll be going out here to get a win, because end of the day, for Argentina, it is a win over England. Doesn't matter if it's not their best team, it's still a win over England. No matter what other way you put it, the record books in 30 years' time, when you look back, will say Argentina win over England, if they do get the victory, of course. So no one will be sitting there going, oh, but that was about 4 years from then, and oh, that would have been a Lions tour, and seeing as, no one will really know in the future, when the record books are looked at in a few years' time, that England were missing so many guys for a Lions tour. So this is a big chance for Argentina. The Jaguares in Super Rugby have been pretty decent this year. Good in patches, terrible in others, but improved on recent performances as well. And this is a big part of the year for that Super Rugby franchise, because their season can quickly fall apart here. You look at the core of Australia, New Zealand, South African Super Rugby sides, they don't lose too many players here. They lose, maybe the Crusaders will lose a good portion of double-figure players, 10 or so will be leaving to the All Blacks. But Argentina, they'll be losing pretty much the whole team. They will continually keep playing while others are resting up the core group of their squad, having a lot of training, a lot of fitness and that sort of thing, but ultimately resting up from the bruising encounters of international rugby where they won't be required. So this is big, Argentina, not only for the international team, but this is big for the Jaguares to keep their players fit, because they will not be getting much rest here going into the final part of the season. So ultimately, between these two sides, I'm going to give this one by a slipping slender margin to Argentina. 2 points I'm going to pick the difference by. I think England is going to learn a lot from this, but I think Argentina is going to go out full guns blazing and try and put something on here against the Englishmen, and it could be their day. It could really be their day to do it as well. One match to go, and it is over in New Jersey in the United States of America. We're in the Red Bull Arena, where the USA are up against Ireland. I can't do an Irish accent, and really, judging by that, I can't do an American one either. I'll just stick to my New Zealand accent. So it's Red Bull Arena, New Jersey, USA up against Ireland. Again, a lot of players missing from this Irish team, and again, blood that development. June internationals, no one cares who really wins. A week from now, these matches won't mean anything unless something major happens. So for the USA, this is a huge chance. A country that has really been developing very well over recent times. Sevens-wise, they have been exceptional in recent years as well. Especially this year, they have come on in leaps and bounds and are really taking the world by storm in sevens rugby. A chance for them here to put it onto the international stage in 15s. Will they be enough to beat Ireland? I don't think so. I think Ireland still have enough depth in their team from what they've lost and enough good first team players in that squad that haven't gone on Lions tour to beat the Americans. Now, the Americans, this is a great chance for them to get into that tier 1 sort of rugby action, somewhere they'll be aiming to be in the future. Ultimately, again, won't be good enough, but they can get their best team, their best players out there and really show off to the world and America, especially America, what the national team can do. Again, like Ireland when they beat the All Blacks in Chicago last year, I think it was, that was huge for American rugby because they've seen 2 international heavyweights, and of course it was the underdog that won, and it was great, and all the headlines and everything like that. But this is their team. This is different. This is a chance that their team could do something special. So, big opportunity here for America. Home crowd could well and truly get behind them, but I think the depth of Irish rugby will be too good. We know all the players that have been left behind. They've been playing for Ireland recently. They had a great Six Nations as well that they'll be looking to build the depth on. Again, this is all about building depth. It's not even hardly even a serious international window because the Lions are happening. And most of world rugby is focused on the Lions. The whole Northern Hemisphere is pretty much focusing on the Lions. Really, you could say South Africa and France will probably be more interested in their match. But apart from that, the rugby world is watching the Lions. So I'm going for Ireland to win this one. I don't think it'll be a thrashing, though. I think that America will certainly put up a performance to be proud of. But I'm going to go Ireland by just 12 points over the United States of America. It should be a good game, though. I'll be interested to see how the Americans go and if they can transfer that sevens form into 15. So good luck to the Americans. Good luck to all the teams in action this weekend. Hopefully we have some good running rugby and unearth some new talents coming through the systems because, again, this is what it's all about. It is about future-proofing these nations and an opportunity, especially the Northern Hemisphere teams involved with the Lions. This is massive to the future of their countries as well. So if you haven't got involved with the SuperBru picks already in my league, make sure you join the pool. Just search for Cornflakes Crib, join the pool, and then your picks can be pitted against everyone else who is having their say as well. So join up, have some fun, and let me know what your thoughts are on the teams as well. I've gone pretty much generic through all these sides because I haven't seen much of the teams this far out from the matches. It is early week when recording this. Hopefully it gets you guys, hopefully a couple of days before the weekend would be very good. So much content going on at the moment with the Lions tour matches in midweek, finals going on around the globe. It is hectic at the moment, but hopefully you'll enjoy the rugby this weekend, and if your team is in action, let me know how you think they go, and hopefully we see some of that next tier throughout all these teams playing and building for the future. I could be completely wrong about that. That is a huge possibility that it doesn't even happen. But until next time, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you all wherever we may end up. Until then, take care.